in this particular case, this 8260 is going to my, or 8250 is going to my son. He went with Paplow Harvesting a few years ago, and guess what he drove? Number 7. So number 7 is his combine, and I'm giving him one as a gift to remember his time on harvest. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So I have an old butter dish lid here. I'm going to put a little water on it. Well, I take that back. I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm going to put water on it in a minute. But if you followed me very long, you know that I keep these old butter dishes around like this. And why do I do that? Well, you're going to see. You're going to see. Okay, so we're going to cut number 7 out. Okay, this is where the fun happens. I keep a bottle of tap water. I don't ever drink out of this because it just sits here in the shop, but anyways, it's just for this purpose. And I'm not using a whole lot of water, so I may need to start over. Whoop, got a little ahead of myself there. Luckily, we can still salvage it. Now, if you find that these decorations here are hard to move, let's say you do the same thing I did. Now, this thing is, I can't really slide this. It's not sliding across the diecast. Well, don't worry about it. Just get you a paintbrush or something and just wet it up. All you want to do is just get a little bit of water underneath that film, and then you'll be able to move it wherever you want it. See how I did that there? Got those brushes right underneath there. Now we can go ahead and move it. And you might be able to move it with your finger. Well, it's not wanting to move very well. And like I said, if it's not moving easy, don't fight it, because you could tear your decoration and then you'll have to buy more, and you don't want to do that. That's not money spent well. Just put more water underneath it. See how I'm just touching that now and it's starting to slide around? That's what we want. And it's still a bit tacky up here at the front, so we're just going to continue moving the paper around. Just more water, more water. Come on. If you do have enough decorations, you can start over. I mean, feel free. There we go. That's what I want. Just like so. And on these combines, it seems like where it says axial flow is kind of right above this body line right here by my fingernail. It's just right above there, and then the 8250 kind of dips down and it just kind of arcs a wee bit. So that's all we're going to do. We're just going to put it back the way we found it. And for comparison's sake, here's a factory combine. That's how that looks. So now you can see the two side by side. So we about have that in the right spot. The decals are not perfect replications, which is fine. For this purpose, that doesn't have to be absolute. But they do look pretty good, and it's a good representation of what the real one should look like. There. So all I did was use a Q-tip here to wick out the leftover water, and we can continue moving on. Next, we're going to do this other, well, okay, we're going to get a twofer. We're just going to let that one chill there. And the P should be right in front of this body line right here. But not above this curved arc body line. Should be below that. And we're good. Gonna wick that water away. Depending on how wet that decal was when you started, you might slide it to and fro with your Q-tip. So just something to be aware of, that it can move on you just by using the Q-tip, depending on how much fluid you used, how wet you brought it up. There we go. Oh, doggone it. Can't get the paper in my discard pile. Now we're going to straighten up that 7 and get it set right. Now I'm just going to use my Q-tip just to suck up the excess fluid right away. But I didn't take it all up, okay? And what I'm doing is I'm going right behind this body line right here. And then I'm leveling up the top of that 7 with this body line here, right below the grain bin. Now that I'm comfortable with how that one's positioned, I'm going to tamp out the rest of the water. Now we're going to work on this side. Now we're not done yet. We're not done yet. A little more to do. This time we're going to work from the back to the front. Just like that. I would tell you that the better job you do positioning these decals right out of the gate with the paper, it just makes the whole process a little easier for you. It's not, you know, you didn't do anything wrong if you didn't get it exactly where you want it first time out of the gate. That's not a problem. It just, with practice, you know, you just do yourself a lot of favors by getting it right the first time, or as close as you can the first time. See right here, right in front of the Q-tip, I'm pushing that water out. Pretty cool, huh? All right. I'm going to push the rest of these decorations off into the water. Get them going. And then this one's been setting in there the longest, so guess what? We're just going to pull that one and get it going right now. Now, if you're wondering, all these decorations, they came from Circus City Decals. Now we're ready for, we're going to put the badge right here on. Okay, I like that. I think that's going to work. So I'm just going to tamp out the excess fluid, water. And I'm kind of positioning this so I can see it straight up See if I need to adjust the, I think I need to raise it just a little bit. Now if you're using a knife like I am, you run the risk of tearing and cutting your decoration. That's not what you want to do. So I would, if you're going to use a knife or something like that, just be extra careful. And since I'm not happy with how I laid that, I'm just going to go ahead and put some water under it. I'm going to move it. So if you are ever doing this and you're like, ooh, I don't like the way that sits, after you kind of tamp out that water, just wet it up and move it. Okay. So what I'm doing is I'm eyeballing this line right here below the grain bin with the top of these letters. I want to get that straight as I can, and that looks reasonable there. Just like that. There we go. And then finally, the last two we're going to do. We're going to use this final number 7. We're going to put it on the grain auger. We'll move this out here where you can see it. And what was I thinking there? That wasn't smart. So if it comes off on your finger, deliberately or by accident, just take your knife and pick it up like that. There. Just need something a little more pointy to hold that down. I'm going to slide that over here where I want it. And I guess I better leave that alone. That's pretty good. This is right out there on the end of that auger, as you can see. Now, when I do this again, if I have these printed again for any particular reason, maybe somebody commissions another combine or something, I will have these letters made smaller, probably the same size as the number 7. These are a little bit big. One thing I've noticed on Ertl machines, like this auger here is slightly bigger in diameter than this one, and so that really works well right there. That size works well on that auger, but on this one I think it's a little big. But overall, I think generally speaking, an end user will have a lot better luck with smaller letters. And then you wouldn't have to be so picky about the combine you use. And you're going to see here in a minute just the difference in size of that number 7 and then the name. See how much bigger that is? Looks kind of squirrely, but this is what we have, so this is what we're using. And placing it and getting it on that curve right is kind of that's a bit of a challenge. So you can see I'm actually holding that logo with my thumb while I wick the water away. And I'm going to have to move that 7 once more. Oh, see how I said you can move that? If there's a lot of excess water behind it, you can move it with your thumb. Well, that's what I've done there. Now, whoops, sorry about that. We'll go ahead and move this And then I'm going to let that water evaporate out. So as you can see here, if this were smaller, if this whole logo was the same size as that number 7, it would fit much better and it'd look a lot better. Luckily, I know the guy that makes them. The final step, we're not done yet. So if you're still with me, thank you for watching. I'm using this solution right here. It softens decals to conform to regular surfaces. It also makes the decorations really sticky, it seems. So if you don't treat these decorations with anything, over time they can get dry and then they just flake off, they fall off. So I just use a paintbrush and I just lightly give these a coat of that Microsol, and it seems to keep them on your model a lot longer. Normally, if I'm doing a die-cast replica where I'm stripping it down and repainting it, I use two-stage paint, and then I will go ahead and clear coat over the decorations, and then you know they're not coming off because there's a layer of clear coat over them. Now you don't have to get real crazy, you don't have to use a lot of this fluid, you just need a thin coat over it. If you happen to get too much on it, don't worry about it, you can just wick it off with a Q-tip or even a soft rag. But all my goal here is, I just want to make that super sticky so it stays on this machine for a long, long time. And, you know, to be honest, guys, it smells like vinegar water to me. You could probably make this at home, but what do I know? And if you happen to leave a water, it doesn't seem to leave water spots like a hard water deposit after a car wash or something on your vehicle. At least that hasn't been my experience so far. Okay, see, and that number 7 is still wanting to walk on me. We're just going to give a little push. And then I'm just going to let that water evaporate off of this because that curved surface is just giving me a hassle here. So I'm going to kind of wick it just a little bit, gently, gently, try and get some fluid off of there, but then just let that Microsol just do its magic. Okay. All right, guys, if you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to ask. I'm always willing to share everything I know, and I hope you have a great rest of your Sunday. Have a good one.